"You're just dead weight," Victoria said with a smirk as she strolled around my desk. "We're cutting costs, and frankly, your position is unnecessary." The office fell silent. 20 coworkers froze over their keyboards, pretending not to watch as our CEO publicly dismantled my 3 years at Montgomery Pharmaceuticals. "You barely contribute in meetings," she continued, her voice carrying across the open floor plan. "You question processes that have worked for years. Your reports are consistently late." None of that was true, but I maintained my composure. Hands folded calmly in my lap. "You have until the end of the day to clear out your desk. HR has your paperwork." Victoria's heels clicked triumphantly as she walked away, not bothering to lower her voice as she added, "Some people just don't understand what it takes to succeed in this industry." I smiled and responded simply, "Fine, fire me." Victoria paused mid-stride, clearly disappointed by my calm acceptance. She'd expected tears or pleading, not quiet dignity. "I'm Eve Montgomery, 47 years old, and what Victoria doesn't know is that I own 87% of the company that bears my family name. 3 years ago, I stepped down as the public face of Montgomery Pharmaceuticals when my father passed away, leaving me controlling interest. The board hired Victoria King to lead the company into a new era of growth, unaware that I had very specific plans of my own. Rather than watching from afar, I wanted to understand how our company operated from the inside. With a new hairstyle, my mother's maiden name on my ID badge, and a mid-level position in research analytics, I became invisible, just another employee. For 3 years, I observed. I documented cost-cutting measures that compromised quality. I witnessed talented colleagues leave after being belittled by Victoria and her inner circle. I saw our once collaborative culture transform into a toxic environment of fear and favoritism. I had planned to remain undercover for another 6 months, but Victoria's public humiliation accelerated my timeline. The shareholders' meeting tomorrow would now serve a very different purpose than the quarterly update Victoria was expecting. As I packed my desk, I noticed Alan from legal watching me with a concerned expression. Alan had worked for Montgomery since before I was born and was one of 3 people who knew my true identity. "Everything all right?" he asked quietly, glancing toward Victoria's office. "It will be," I assured him. His brow furrowed as he leaned closer. "She's making bigger moves than you know, the termination list for tomorrow's meeting." He hesitated. "It's extensive, entire departments." I felt my shoulders tense. This was worse than I had anticipated. Victoria wasn't just changing our culture, she was dismantling the company's foundation to boost short-term profits. "Thank you, Alan," I said, meeting his eyes meaningfully. "I'll see you tomorrow." Montgomery Pharmaceuticals wasn't just a company to me, it was my heritage. My grandfather started it in his garage, developing affordable alternatives to expensive medications. My father expanded it into a mid-sized operation respected for both innovation and integrity. We never became pharmaceutical giants like our competitors, but that was intentional. Our mission had always been about balance, profitable enough to drive research, ethical enough to put patients before profits. When my father died unexpectedly from a heart attack, I was working in our Seattle research division. The board, nervous about maintaining investor confidence, wanted to quickly name a new CEO. Though I had the experience and the controlling interest, I suggested we look externally for someone who could bring fresh energy. Victoria King came with impeccable credentials, MBA from Stanford, successful leadership roles at 2 major healthcare companies, and an impressive record of increasing profitability. Her interview was flawless. She spoke eloquently about maintaining our core values while pursuing strategic growth. The board was smitten. I was cautiously optimistic. My decision to work anonymously within the company was unorthodox, but necessary. I needed unfiltered truth, not the polished reports that reached executive levels. I created a new identity as Eve Daniels, leveraging my background in pharmaceutical research to secure a position analyzing efficiency in our development pipeline. The first year under Victoria showed promising results. Profits increased by 18%, and we expanded into 2 new therapeutic areas. But from my position, I noticed troubling signs. Research budgets were quietly being slashed. Long-time employees were replaced with contractors. Quality control measures were streamlined to the point of serious risk. In meetings, Victoria came across as a visionary, charismatic, sharp, and confident. She spoke of strategic realignment and operational efficiency while quietly undermining everything that made Montgomery special. I tried addressing my concerns through proper channels. As Eve Daniels, I submitted reports highlighting potential quality issues, spoke up in departmental meetings, proposed safer alternative approaches. Victoria dismissed me every time. Eventually, she labeled me a negative influence in my performance review. At first, I believed she simply had a different leadership style, strong-willed, ambitious, but over time, I saw the truth. Victoria cared about short-term profits, personal gain, and absolute control. The bombshell. The day before I was fired, I overheard a conversation between Victoria and our CFO in the break room. "Once we streamline these departments and move production offshore, you'll be perfectly positioned for the Axiom merger," she said. "My bonus will be astronomical." Merger? This was the first I'd heard of any merger plans. These kinds of moves required board and shareholder approval, including mine. The morning after. The next morning, I walked into my building's lobby to find Diane from HR waiting for me. Her expression was uneasy. "Miss Daniels," she began nervously, "I have your separation agreement." She handed me a thick envelope. Victoria had made sure to bury me in legalese, a non-disparagement clause, a 2-week severance offer, and a notice. I had 30 days to vacate my company-subsidized apartment. It was cold, ruthless, precise. "There's something else," Diane said softly. "It's not official yet, but Victoria is planning to outsource the entire research division to India. Over 100 people will lose their jobs after the quarterly meeting." The research division. The very heart of Montgomery. The people who had built life-saving medications from scratch. Many of them had been with us for decades. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because it's wrong," she replied. "Your reports were right. 2 of our trial medications failed final stage testing due to the shortcuts Victoria pushed through. She buried the results and fired the leads." This was worse than I feared. Victoria wasn't just greedy, she was putting patients at risk. 8:30 a.m. My phone buzzed with a message from Alan. Meeting moved up to 10 a.m. Victoria presenting new strategy to board and key shareholders. Merger announcement expected. She was accelerating everything, likely to blindside the board before anyone could raise objections. I looked at the time, 90 minutes to prepare. I opened the contingency plan I had been developing in secret for the past year. It included a full restructuring blueprint, research-backed risk analysis, and proof of Victoria's decisions compromising the company's mission. It was time to step out of the shadows. "You're right about one thing," I conceded to Victoria, as the boardroom watched. "We do need to adapt." Victoria smiled, sensing victory. "I'm glad you understand." "Which is why," I continued, "as the majority shareholder of Montgomery Pharmaceuticals, I'm calling for an immediate vote of no confidence in your leadership." The smile vanished from her face. "You can't do that." "Actually," Alan interrupted, sliding a document across the table, "according to company bylaws, she can." Victoria's composure started to crack. "This is absurd. The board appointed me CEO. Only they can remove me." "With all due respect," I said, "that's not entirely accurate." I handed out another document to the board. Article 7, Section 3 of our corporate charter grants the majority shareholder emergency removal powers if the CEO acts against company interests without board approval. Board members flipped through the document, heads bowed in quiet review. The tension thickened. The merger discussions were preliminary. Victoria insisted. Nothing has been signed. But you've already acted on them, I pointed out. Terminated employees, compromised safety protocols, public press materials drafted, all without authorization. Harold Jensen, our longest-serving board member, cleared his throat. Eve is correct. These provisions are clear. But we should discuss the accusations before we take action. I agree, I nodded, which is why I've prepared this. I connected my tablet to the boardroom's display. The screen lit up with a detailed timeline. Research budget cuts labeled as efficiency improvements. Quality control procedures quietly eliminated. Key staff removed after raising safety concerns. Failed drug trials hidden from board reports. Where did you get this information? Victoria demanded. I worked in this company for 3 years, documenting everything. Then, I switched slides. Financial risk analysis, pending lawsuits from patients affected by poorly tested drugs, potential FDA violations, loss of top research talent, long-term brand damage, masked by short-term profit spikes. The board members now looked troubled. Sensing she was losing them, Victoria shifted tactics. Even if there were a few oversights, she said, the results speak for themselves. Profits are up 42%. Our stock has nearly doubled. At what cost? I challenged. Our reputation, patient safety, the institutional knowledge built over generations. Business requires tough decisions, she snapped. Your father understood that, even if you don't. That stung. Had he really doubted me? That's not true, Harold cut in, his voice firm. Robert Montgomery never said anything like that. I was his closest friend on this board. He was immensely proud of Eve. Relief and fury mixed inside me. Victoria had lied, again. Miss King, Harold said sharply, I think it's time you step outside while the board discusses this matter. I don't take orders from. Security can escort you if necessary, Harold added calmly. Victoria glared at each of us but finally left. Inside the boardroom, murmurs broke out. Before we vote, Harold said, there's something else. He looked directly at me. Victoria hasn't just been pushing a merger. She's been negotiating to sell Montgomery's proprietary research to Axiom, separately. Gasps. This wasn't about strategy anymore. It was theft. How do you know? I asked. Harold slid a folder toward me. Axiom's CEO reached out to me last week, assuming I was already looped in. Inside were emails. Direct communication between Victoria and Axiom, discussing selling off research for a fraction of its value, with a hefty consulting fee going straight to Victoria's pocket. The betrayal was complete. The board was stunned. Victoria hadn't just compromised our ethics, she had betrayed the company's mission for personal profit. The vote to remove her as CEO was unanimous. But her removal wouldn't fix everything. The company's trust was broken. Culture damaged. We needed immediate action, and fast. We should announce this before markets close, said Elise Chen, our marketing director. Otherwise, rumors will spread. What about the Seattle facility and research division? Another board member asked. Victoria's team already set those closures in motion. I have a transition plan ready, I assured them, but we need to move quickly. Victoria won't go quietly. Victoria's last stand. As if on cue, the boardroom door burst open. Victoria stormed in, flanked by 2 men in suits I didn't recognize. This emergency meeting violates notification procedures, she announced smugly. My legal team agrees. Any decisions made today are invalid. One of the men stepped forward. As outside counsel for Montgomery Pharmaceuticals, we advised the board that proper CEO removal protocols weren't followed. You're not our outside counsel, Allen shot back, standing. Brenner and Associates has represented Montgomery for over 30 years. Not anymore, Victoria said, grinning. I terminated that relationship last month. Collins and Westfield now represents us. That was a problem I hadn't anticipated. If Victoria had changed our legal representation without board approval, it could delay her removal, create confusion, and give her time to move forward with the merger and layoffs. This is outrageous, Harold objected. Changing legal counsel requires a board vote, which I received, Victoria snapped, pulling out a document with 3 board member signatures, all handpicked by her. We should adjourn and sort this out properly, one of her allies said nervously. Any rushed decisions could open us to liability. The room was shifting again, doubt creeping in. The surprise guest I needed to act, now. Before we continue, I said, I'd like to introduce someone. I pressed the intercom. Please send in our guest. The door opened. In walked an older gentleman in an impeccable suit. Victoria's face turned pale. Jerome Collins, what are you doing here? Good afternoon, Collins said politely. I'm here at Miss Montgomery's request, to clarify a few things. He turned to the board. Collins in Westfield has never been retained by Montgomery Pharmaceuticals. The document claiming so includes a forged signature from my office. The boardroom froze. Victoria's lawyers exchanged panicked glances. One of them edged toward the exit. Also, Collins continued, impersonating legal counsel is fraud. These 2 men, he gestured toward the supposed attorneys, are not affiliated with my firm. Security moved into position. Furthermore, Collins added, I've reviewed the corporate charter. Miss Montgomery's authority as majority shareholder is both clear and legally enforceable. Victoria's final defense was crumbling. Her final, desperate move. Even if you remove me, Victoria sneered, you can't undo what I've already done. The Seattle closure, the research outsourcing, those plans are already filed with regulators. Actually, I countered, no filings have been submitted. I checked this morning. And the agreement with Axiom? She shot back. Subject to board approval, Harold said sternly, which it never received. Victoria's fury boiled over. You planned this all along. Working undercover, spying on me. No, Victoria, I said calmly. You did this to yourself, when you chose to put personal gain above everything else. She turned to the 3 board members she'd recruited. You need to support me on this. Remember our discussions about your compensation packages after the merger? Bad move. The room went still. The implication was obvious and damning. One of her allies stiffened in his seat. Miss King, he said cautiously, are you implying we had some sort of private arrangement tied to the merger? Because that would be a serious breach of fiduciary duty. It was over. Victoria had just implicated herself in yet another violation. One even her hand-picked board members couldn't defend. As security entered, preparing to escort her and her fake lawyers out, she realized it. Her reign was done. As Victoria and her imposter legal team were escorted from the building, I took my seat at the head of the table, a seat that had always been mine by right. I hadn't wanted to reclaim it like this, but she left me no choice. The next morning, company-wide meeting. I arrived early at the company auditorium. Word had spread. Rumors were everywhere, but few knew the full truth. The room filled quickly. My former colleagues from the analytics department did double takes when they saw me walking to the podium in a tailored suit. No longer Eve Daniels, the quiet researcher, but Eve Montgomery, rightful leader of the company. Victoria had planned to use this meeting to announce her strategic restructuring. Instead, I was here to announce her removal. Good morning, I began. For those who don't know me, I'm Eve Montgomery. A ripple of shock spread across the room. Some of you knew me as Eve Daniels from the analytics team. That was intentional. For the last 3 years, I've worked among you, side by side, because I wanted to understand what this company had become. I walked them through the truth. Victoria's firing. The canceled merger. The reinstated research division. And the plans we would now pursue, together. The tension in the room shifted. I could see it in their eyes, relief, cautious hope, even pride. Yesterday, Victoria King called me dead weight and fired me. Today, I want to talk about what makes someone valuable at Montgomery Pharmaceuticals. I clicked to the first slide. Photos of employees from every department, scientists, custodians, IT, HR. Value isn't about job titles or stock prices. It's about integrity, dedication, and the shared mission of helping people through accessible, effective medicine. My vision for rebuilding. I presented my new restructuring plan, very different from Victoria's. No mass layoffs, no quality shortcuts, no abandoning of research. We would adapt, yes, but without sacrificing the values that made this company matter. I also announced the creation of a new board seat representing employee interests, a formal internal whistleblower protection policy, and an open-door leadership structure that rewarded collaboration, not fear. In the crowd, I saw people tearing up. Some were smiling through it. Others simply sat in stunned silence. One of my former supervisors from analytics wiped away tears. Nearby, the research team, who just yesterday thought their division was gone, was visibly emotional. I know many of you have endured a toxic environment, I said. That ends today. The auditorium erupted in applause, tentative at first, but soon rising to a standing ovation. One final goodbye. After the meeting, I saw Victoria one last time. She stood in the building's lobby, security guards at her side as she waited for her car. She had been allowed to collect her personal items, but nothing else. No data, no files, no company property. I approached, keeping a professional distance. "You won't succeed," she sneered. "The market's changed. Your father's way is dead. Montgomery will be obsolete in 5 years. "Maybe," I said, "but we'll be obsolete with our integrity intact." She gave a bitter laugh. "Integrity doesn't pay shareholders." "Actually," I replied, "sustainable, ethical growth pays shareholders quite well. It just takes vision and patience." Her car pulled up. She turned back once more. "You could have learned something from me." "I did," I said. "I learned exactly how not to lead." She didn't respond, just turned and got in the car. Her story at Montgomery was over. Back in the executive office, my father's office, Alan was waiting with a bottle of champagne. "Congratulations," he said, pouring 2 glasses. "Your father would be proud." "I hope so," I said, taking a glass. "There's still a lot to fix." "Then it's a good thing," he smiled, "that you've got an entire company ready to help you do it." On my desk sat 2 framed photos. 1, my father, Robert Montgomery. 2, a candid photo from last summer's company picnic, me with my analytics team, laughing. Those 2 images summed up who I was. Montgomery the legacy, Eve the colleague. Together they'd guide this company forward. "To new beginnings," I toasted. "And," Alan added, "to the best kind of revenge, success. On your own terms." With Victoria gone, and the auditorium now quiet, I walked the halls of Montgomery Pharmaceuticals, not as Eve Daniels, the invisible mid-level analyst, but as Eve Montgomery, the woman at the helm of a company she loved too deeply to walk away from. A company reclaimed back in my office, my father's office, once coldly redecorated by Victoria in sterile modernism. I took a long breath. The walls no longer echoed with fear. The leadership no longer whispered secrets. For the first time in years, Montgomery Pharmaceuticals felt alive again. Alan was already waiting there with a bottle of champagne. "Congratulations," he said, raising a glass. "Your father would be proud." "I hope so," I replied, accepting it. "There's still so much to fix." "True," Alan smiled. "But now, you've got an entire company ready to fix it with you." We clinked glasses, the moment weighty but joyful. A tale of 2 photos. On the desk were 2 framed photos. One of my father, Robert Montgomery, stoic, brilliant, principled. And beside it, a candid photo from last summer's company picnic. I was in it, laughing mid-bite, surrounded by my analytics team, none of them knowing they were standing beside the majority owner. 2 sides of the same legacy, one built on heritage and values, the other built through empathy, observation, and resilience. Both were me. Both were essential. Full circle. In the end, Victoria didn't destroy us. She simply revealed what we risked becoming. She showed us how easily integrity could be sold off, how quickly legacy could be stripped for profit. But we caught it in time. We reversed course, not because of revenge, but because of a shared belief that a company could still be successful without selling out, bold without becoming cruel, profitable without becoming poisonous. Final reflection. Victoria thought she was writing my ending. "You're just dead weight," she had said. But the truth? I wasn't dead weight. I was the anchor, the one holding Montgomery steady while others drifted off course. And now the company sails forward again, guided not just by strategy or structure, but by something more enduring: purpose. To new beginnings, I whispered again to the empty office and quietly toasted the photo of my father.